How did you feel when you heard that Reagan was defending the Vietnam War?
There are perceptions about the Vietnam War which are very much distorted. I think one has to realize, and I've tried to bring this out in my book, that the American people during the Vietnam War years were bombarded with propaganda, and a lot of it started in Hanoi. They got a distorted idea of what it was all about. As historians look at that era in the year 2000, they're going to conclude, in my opinion, that this was probably the most idealistic, selfless commitment ever made by a major power to a small power. We went over there with, we didn't need any resources that they had. Their being in our camp had very little to do with our economic progress. It was strictly a matter of principle. A principle that America's always stood for is the protector of the small nations and the protector of freedom. And that was the basis of our commitment. It was very selfless. And in the final analysis, we defaulted. We made a solemn commitment to those people that we were not going to allow them to be engulfed by communism backed by large military forces, where the people of South Vietnam would have no say in their form of government. And if you look at what's going on in Indochina now, it wouldn't happen if we had succeeded. In my opinion, that era in our history will go down as a turning point of America. Our youth was disaffected by virtue of political pressures. The draft was stopped. We got Navy recruits now booing the flag and the Star-Spangled Banner. We glorified civil disobedience. We made a commitment which the world knew about it, and we defaulted. So we've lost an awful lot of our international prestige and clout. It was a tragic era. Now, if we succeeded, it would have been just the reverse. That failure hurts America's conscience. And psychologically, this is deeply ingrained in the conscience of America.
Well, then are you an advocate of reinstating the draft?
If we could get the young people of this country to realize that military service is an obligation to citizenship, this is the way I felt. It's the way your father felt. It's the way many of us felt. Military service is an obligation to citizenship, whether you're drafted or otherwise. We've lost that. We've got to get back to the principle that we inherited from the British, and the British got it from Roman law. Otherwise, our democracy will not work, and our country will not survive. And it's very simple. For every right, there's a duty. For the last 10 years, we've heard a lot about rights, 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 rights. But have you heard anything about duties? Nothing about duties. And the first thing we got to do is rediscover the other part of that equation, duty. And if the young people of the country could rediscover that, you wouldn't have to have the draft. But they're not going to do it, in my opinion.
Do you miss the military, or is it a trade-off now, being able to speak your mind on a lot of issues?
I have a freedom now that I've never had before. When you're in the military service, it is important that you support the commander-in-chief, the policy of the government. You can't have men in uniform going off in all directions. If they don't agree with the policy, they ought to resign. They ought to get out. While you're there, you have to adhere to the policies of the commander-in-chief. It won't work any other way. You cannot compromise on that principle. I did that, and I tried to do it loyally. Now that I'm out, well, I have the right of free speech, and I exercise it. I don't have to have my speeches censored. I don't have to adhere to a policy that and talk in favor of a policy that I don't think is optimum for our country. And I must say, I like this.